Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hooligan Chronicles. And today we have a lot of beautiful guests. With me next to me is of course Kay. Justin, will you do the honors?
Yeah, sure. This is right. We're already kind of off to a hot start here. We're Supplement Snacks. Everybody gets to hear you and I talk so much, Robbie and Robert. This is going to be fun because like they always say, right? The backbone of what we have going on is the women in our lives, and it'll be good to hear from them for a change rather than just you and I going back and forth all the time.
Yeah, I think that's great because you know what? I mean, everybody, a lot of people know us from, obviously from as a Supplement Snoop and Apollon Nutrition. But the truth is, I think that the ladies obviously have been making a lot of noise as of late. And I think that because they literally don't give a fuck about anything, you know, coming from their perspective, any questions or anything like that, I think that it's going to be a little bit kind of like a, uh, fresh air, so to speak. So I think that obviously, for the listeners, for the viewers, we didn't plan none of this in terms of questions. We don't have a script. We don't have idea what we're going to be talking about. It's just like general about whatever comes to mind. And I think since like Robert said, my podcast in a way, so I'm gonna go with the first question that literally just popped into my mind, and obviously this question is for Kirsten. How the hell do you come up with all these? I mean, you're a police officer, right?
Yes.
But you can fucking bake. I mean,
That I can.
that's how did you come up with that? Like, is it something passion or is it something that you always been with you? And I know for a fact that creating. I mean, I can cook and I can't fucking bake at all, but I respect those that can, and I love food. Everybody knows I love food. Uh, but I know baking is. I'm not saying it's easy. I know it's hard, but it's probably even harder when it comes to like coming up with healthy snacks and that involves protein. Because let's face it, most protein on the market still tastes like ass. So I mean that probably involves a lot of creativity. How do you come up with that?
Yeah,
Or how did
so
you get started?
we're gonna go back 30 some odd years to a childhood memory that will stick with me forever. And picture it, it's 1990 something, and
What
the
was that?
commercial for the Easy Bake Oven is airing on TV. And I've got my Toys R Us toy book out.
See.
Oh my gosh, Siri is just gonna be like ridiculous. Okay. Anyway, so I tell my mom I want an Easy Bake Oven. This like a little tiny toy oven. I want this. This is so cool. And she turns to me and she says, "You've got a real sized one in there. Why don't you just go use that?" So, long story short, I never got my Easy Bake Oven, but I do have pictures of me in diapers sitting on the counter stirring batter. So my mom got me into baking and cooking when I was very, very young. And so every time we would see something on a menu or on the trauma,
The
trauma,
My
like
sister had
anything
one of
like on
these.
yes, on an ad, a commercial, my mom would always say, "Oh, I could make that. I can make that." Anything on a Food Network show, my mom would say, "I can make that." And so then we would just start experimenting in the kitchen, trying to recreate things. So my Supplement Snacks comes from a place of my childhood, just cooking and baking with my mother. So when he would get all these proteins in the mail, it starts with the flavor. So like yours, for instance, the 50-50 blackberry cheesecake. That one's really obvious. Like I can make a blackberry cheesecake out of this because, whey protein, just dairy, like it fits. It'll all work together. You add different parts of dairy together. Eventually they all come together and create something. So all I do is just replace certain ingredients with the protein, considering it to be somewhat milk replacement-ish. That's a very hefty-ish. And then you just kind of throw it all in a bowl and see if it works out. Just 90% of the time, it mostly works out for me. So, but a lot of it ended up being just it started out as replacing the flour with protein powder. And then, so for the baked goods. And then as I got more comfortable with that, I started just replacing other things with protein and then just adding it and seeing if it worked. So it's really just a whole bunch of experimenting. I don't delve too deep into it as to, okay, scientifically, chemically, this will work, that'll work. I just mainly throw stuff together that makes sense and then see if it works. So
yeah, she is kind of downplaying it. Like I'll tell it from my point of view, like as so she literally, like, every time she sees something, whether it's on TV or like I'll show her a protein, she would go, I know what I can do with that. Like literally, like it's so fast, and she thinks about it, and then she just goes right into, you know how we all kind of have our things where a lot of times in life we're sort of afraid to try something new, or we're kind of, you know, we're like, I'm not really sure. But everyone has like that thing where you just get really excited about it and just go do it. And I would see her and I was like, because I'm not that way. I'm not creative. I don't have the patience to trial and error cooking or anything. Thank God for her. But I watch her, like, she just looks at something and it just goes, it's like Robert looking at a supplement formula or something like that. You know how it's like the line from Good Will Hunting when he's like, you know, he's like, I look at it and I could just play. Like, that's how her brain goes. She just goes, I can do that. And then goes in there and grabs a bowl and starts messing around. And I'm just sitting there like, I just don't go there. So it's just, you know, she's downplaying it completely. There's a lot of creativity and trial and error, and just her brain just going, yes. Like the creativity part of it blows me away.
Yeah, because a lot of it is, it's all in the palate. It's all in tasting. So if you taste something, and just like any label, any formula, anything else, you break apart the notes in it. So, you know, this ingredient tastes like this ingredient tastes like that. I know that this is that seasoning. And then you can break it apart, and judging by how strong these flavors are, you just kind of trial and error with the amounts of it and eventually come to something that's really pretty close.
So it's kind of like us breaking down a supplement formula, knowing citrulline does this and this does this and these go together here. I never thought about
right,
that.
And like
way.
how much of the amounts would be, you know, if it's it's like breaking down a prop blend, right? So to put it in language you would understand, you would know that for this effect, you would need to have this many milligrams. For me, take a food, I know with this flavor profile, I would need to have at least this much of this particular flavor, seasoning, ingredient, whatever, and then just break it down from there.
So when I tell people that they're being lazy for not reading a supplement label, I'm just really being lazy when it comes to food label. Okay, good. I called myself out.
Look, microwave rice pouches were made for people just like you.
That's true.
You know, there's not there for everyone.
I can relate, but you see, the thing is, what's interesting is like I like to. I'm a lot like Justin. Like I can't. There are a few dishes, like simple dishes, that I can make, like, I don't know, an omelet or something like that. So there are a couple, but
A steak,
yeah. Totally. But I'm a very good. I mean, I would say I'm a good judge. Like when it comes to like whether it tastes good or doesn't taste good, I can't fucking guess what's in it or anything like that. I can't get into that detail. But what I am good is observing, like just in general. I'm not talking about food. I'm talking about general. I'm very, very good at observing things and paying attention. And what I noticed is like this is predominantly the supplement industry is a predominantly male industry. It's very, very heavy when it comes to, you know, I mean, obviously Justin, Robert. I mean, it's mostly men. It sounds pretty sexist, but you know, on the other hand, that's just the way it is. But what I did notice is, and this is something very, very interesting. I noticed from my perspective, when Carolina took over running Apollon, it got better. You know, this is a female that comes from. I mean, I'm not from supplement industry either, but I am more experienced, I would say, more knowledgeable, because I've been dealing with athletes, with supplements for quite some time. But we're talking about, like, you know, somebody comes with a fresh perspective that is not from the industry, from completely different industry, and does a better job than I do. And again, I don't mind admitting it. That's fine. But the same thing is, I noticed with you when it comes to food. I mean, obviously, when it comes to flavors, right? We often say, like, Justin and I said it many times, especially when it comes to pre-workout, we don't really care about the taste because the ingredients are mostly bitter and disgusting, and we just chug it and that's it. But I'll admit, when it comes to protein, we don't. The products are not for us. The product, we use them, but the products are for for mass distribution, obviously for the consumer. It's a business. We selling a product. So fortunately or unfortunately, depends how you look at it, the taste does play a huge part. And I mean, let's face it, if I'm having a protein shake, I would like for it to taste good too. But still, when it comes to the process of selecting, flavors, it's mostly men who are involved because the industry is predominantly male. But when Justin receives these proteins, and I'm sure that he receives it on a daily basis from various companies, I'll be I'll bet that most of them that specifically that you try are not that good. That you probably would say, like, how the hell did they even approve this? I mean, that's just the given here. I mean, I know it's true because I'm dealing with exactly the same thing when it comes to Carolina. She can cook, she can bake, and she's a female. And again, this comes off right now very, very sexist, but we're just being honest here. Women are better judges when it comes to
For
food,
sure.
and they definitely more honest than men are. We can kind of like, oh yeah, it doesn't taste that good, but as long as the ingredients are good and the ingredient profile is good, we can suck it up. I don't give a shit about taste, reacting tough, and that's it. But women are more judgmental. What would you say? What would you say is the main problem? And I guess the question is for both for you and for Carolina. When it comes to different flavors and tastes, when you taste something that is awful or just not that good, what would you say, or would you recommend to the companies, to the manufacturers, to the brand owners, how to approach the flavor judging and approval process so it tastes better than majority of flavors that we have on the market?
Right. So, and I kind of had a little bit of an experience with this when we went down to Houston to Glaxon. Supplement Lab and I were we created a savory protein together. It was a tomato bisque flavor.
It was cool to watch,
Yeah,
actually. They did it in the lab together, and they just whipped up a protein flavor.
Yeah, so it's like a savory protein, take a scoop, add it to hot water, and boom, you have like a protein bisque. So in doing that, I learned a lot about flavoring supplements. And I think like the small things matter. The different facets of, taste. You have your savory, umami, you have sweet, sour, salty, like things have to balance. And I think what maybe some companies don't do a very good job on is actually reaching a specific flavor profile by breaking it down. So if you were doing a birthday cake, right? Like what flavors would you need in order to accomplish that? Break it down by the recipe. What is it? It's sugar, it's flour, it's butter, it's vanilla. So what would you want? What base flavors would you want in your birthday cake protein? You would want a sweet sugar flavor, definitely butter to get that yellow cake taste. More sugar for icing, vanilla, and stuff like that. So you want, I think, to get a more rounded flavor profile that's more accurate to whatever flavor you're trying to create. If you would some of them would just break it down into the different base flavors that make up the actual whole flavor, then you would end up getting a bit more accurate flavors on there.
Yeah, that's
and then definitely sodium is so important. So like salt, of course, in around cooking, everybody knows that like salt and fat give you your flavor. So I'm not sure when developing protein, if sodium is something that you try to watch or limit, or just, of course, based on people's dietary preferences and what they're looking for. But I do note that some, especially when it comes to peanut butter, if you skimp out on the salt, you're not going to get that actual peanut butter flavor to pop. You might have a peanut essence, but it'll be like a sweet peanut and not a peanut butter that we're accustomed to because there is salt added to it. So salt is huge in some of these proteins that I try. It's my lisp cereal.
How does
Sure.
do you prefer salted butter or unsalted butter when you're baking?
So baking, I like to control my level of salt. So However, I go with the Land O'Lakes light butter a majority of the time. I rarely have full fat butter in my fridge ever, just because that's a very easy thing to substitute out. Sure, you can do the Greek yogurts and the cottage cheeses as a fat replacement, but you're only going to get that butter flavor by using a butter flavored product. So, because butter extract, I don't like. I don't think it's very representative of butter. So I like to use at least light butter, something that's butter flavored and also acts as a fat.
So what I think when it comes to flavors, from what I've seen, I think attention to details, that's what's important. That's exactly, I think, what Christine was saying. But on top of that also, from going to different manufacturers and dealing with a lot of like chemists who actually trying to develop the flavor, if you tell them, let's say mango, right? There are so many different mangoes. And in your head, you have the mango, let's say like you've been traveled to Thailand, right? And Thai flavored mango is totally different from what we have here, like from the mango from Mexico. But whoever is developing the flavor, they have no idea how the actual thing tastes. And that's the biggest problem, what I see. Because they actually flavor something and they like hardly believe that is mango. And they're right, it's mango. But it's not mango that you were trying to accomplish. And it's impossible to explain what it tastes like. Even if you tell them it's a little bit more acidity, it's a little less sweet, it's a little bit less of that, it's still not there. So from what I can see, I would totally recommend them to try different things, not to be afraid of trying different things and mixing those things together too. Because sometimes you think it's not going to go well together, like certain things, right? But once you mix it together, it's actually, I'm not a bakerist, I'm not a chemist also, but I think from what you were saying as well, something complements another one and the other thing covers that one. So altogether it just works. And I love what you're saying, because when you bake, you don't have a recipe, right? You just know. And that's what I do. I'm not even close at that, how you doing it. But like in my head, I'm like, all right, I think it's going to work out. I just put it in, I mix it up,
Right.
and they go,
Right.
what's the recipe? I'm like, there is no recipe. I just tried it. And I have no idea why I decided that thing will go with that thing together. Mix it up, add something into it, and then it's good. And if it's not good, it's not good. But I tried it. So my at least advice to whoever is flavoring or whoever is trying to accomplish something, definitely to be much more open-minded. So you cannot set your mind on what you think is right. Because that's the same mindset as Rob said, right? We're making the product for the customers. They making the flavor for the company. Then they don't have to like it as long as the flavor delivers.
Right.
But we've been in those situations that we will go to the chemist and like, no, it's the best. Like, I think there is nothing needs to be changed. Yes, you think that, but you're not going to be buying pallets worth of the supplements that we're going to be producing.
So
that's what I think.
So I have a question as you're talking about that, a question for you, both of you really, as you guys have grown as a brand, because one of the things that I see that's seems to be an issue, especially for like newer companies, is they're either in a hurry to release something, they need to get their cash flow going, they need to get their investment back, right? Or they don't have much pull with their manufacturer, they're low on the totem pole. Companies don't do enough testing. So do you think that that's something that is kind of changed for you guys as you've grown bigger? You have the ability to, like you're saying too, I mean, you might have to go back and forth with your manufacturer many times before they nail a flavor. Whereas maybe when you guys were a smaller company, or Rob, you've seen other like smaller brands, they might have like one shot at a test and they're like, look, we got to release this product, we got to get it out there. Is that something like has kind of changed as you guys have gone along?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, I think also when you're like small business, and it's not an offense at all, because we used to be like super small, right? You're not taken seriously by the manufacturers, and you cannot expect to be. So when there is someone much bigger, there is someone with much more investment, and obviously in order to provide much more to the manufacturer in terms of finances, you cannot expect the same treatment as they are. And that's normal. But I think also you have to stick with your values. You have to stick with your vision. And flavoring, especially the key products, is your vision. So I don't think we will ever be able to release a protein, because I hardly believe that protein is the main supplement for everybody besides all the pre-workouts. It doesn't matter. So the protein is the essential, right? So we're not going to release the protein until we approve the taste. And if we don't like the flavor, it's not going to go into the production. It's okay. But we'll rather work more on it. And we can actually, like Rob said, we can sleep with the pre-workout, right? Pre-workout is not that, I think, major when it comes to the flavors compared to protein. So with the pre-workout, if it's, and we still trying, don't get me wrong, we're still trying to improve on every single time that we make a pre-workout, even with the taste. But like when you taste a pre-workout, you understand it's not an amino acid, right? So you're not going to be able to like drink it and enjoy it, especially the formulas that we've had. So that's something that I think people just need to understand, that it takes so much hard work to get to the point where you can kind of come up with your terms. But up until then, you better go with like smaller steps. Make sure that you create your own kind of spot, I would say, in the industry and reputation also. And then once you grow, once you get to the certain level, yes, you go to the manufacturer and you actually come with your terms. That's how
I think. Yeah, I think like one thing too, that as Rob, as you were talking earlier, you mentioned, you know, this might sound sexist, and as much as we talk like these days where mentioning genders and strengths and weaknesses of men and women is kind of taboo, it's also bullshit, right? It's important to recognize the strengths of, we know as guys, like, okay, we might have this as a strength, but you need a woman there too. Her strengths can complement your strengths. So when you're growing your brand, was there anything like in particular, Kay, that you did or saw as you were kind of coming in there that you're like, look, get out of my way and like let me handle this, just go sit over there and and mind your business for a little while?
You know what, the few things that I noticed is within the industry, you have a successful brand. I'm not going to name anyone right now, not because I don't want to, just nothing specific comes to mind. But there are brands, obviously, they somewhat successful, they come up with good products, or maybe not even good products, but they become popular for whatever reason. And then all of a sudden they rebrand. And they change their attitude, and they all of a sudden change their approach, and they kind of trying to reinvent the wheels. And I noticed that majority of times they fail. So if you have a shitty brand and it works from a business perspective, you're making money, and that's what you want. Like your main goal is to make money. You don't give a fuck about formulas. You don't. This is not criticism. I'm not being a smartass right now. I mean it. Some people, they just want to make money. I'm a little bit more proud and competitive, and I want to raise the bar. So money is important because we're running a business. But I want to me, this is like sort of a dick measurement competition. And I do admit that I'm guilty of it to an extent, but the dick measurement comes to competing with myself. I cannot compete with Jeff Long, even though I like his brand. I like a Pro, but I think that we still, like I said many times, we do things slightly different. So I don't want to get into his territory and compete with him. I'd rather compete with myself and stick true to what we do as the brand. I remember this. And I said it before also. I think when we released Hooligan, and the first Hooligan was manufactured for us by NutriBio, and I remember going to NutriBio and I was talking to Mark Glazer, and I was like, I want 450 milligram of caffeine in Hooligan. He looked at me. That's back then when everybody was making 200 milligram. That was a standard. I was like, no, I want 450 because we're making supplements for Apollon Gym members, and Apollon Gym members kind of badass, hardcore. 450 would be good. And he goes to me, he says, well, it's not illegal. He says, but it's a little extreme. He says, that's not going to fly. I'm like, I don't care. We don't have that many members. I know our members will buy. So we released 450 milligram, and it was a hit. I mean, it was a hit within Apollon gym and neighboring gyms. People would stop by. Keep in mind, we didn't sell online or anything like that. But 450, people wanted more. I was like, oh, you want more? No problem. The next was 600 milligram. 600 milligram. But at that point, I think Apollon started to get kind of noticed. And everybody was started like, again, Ryan and Price Plow. Well, Price Plow, not so much, because at that point, Robert was still there. And he was, doing most of the content. So Robert didn't say anything negative. It was Ryan. Ryan actually released a video. He did a video criticizing Apollon. Yeah, that was like a huge video about Apollon Gym, Apollon Nutrition, and how we are reckless and whatnot. So 600 milligram with caffeine. Needless to say, some of his supporters, some of his followers, we got a lot of criticism. I was called a fucking chemist and butcher and murderer and whatnot. It was like nonstop. And I remember a few people suggested to me maybe tone it down, for the third version of Hooligan, tone it down a little bit.
So you raised it
I
up.
upped it. I was like, okay, no problem.
That sounds familiar.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, the next one was 720 milligrams of caffeine. I didn't want to do it. I honestly did not plan on doing it. It was just my way of saying, I was like, go fuck yourself. You know what? I will do it my way. I did 720. At that point, nobody said a word because everybody was like, okay, this guy is a lunatic. He's crazy. And
that's probably right about the time. That's probably right about the time when Eddie was like, Justin, you have to meet this guy.
Yeah,
he's like, I have to connect you guys.
Yeah. So
he's like, because you guys
720, and I remember simultaneously we released Assassin, and at that point everybody was doing DMA about 30 milligram, 40 milligram, something like that. I was like, no, we're going with 80. And that was when DMA was actually good. Nobody said a thing. So I was like, you know what, for Hooligan 4, I'm going to go back to 600. And we stayed at 600, 650. And that pretty much, again, I know Hooligan is popular. It has like pretty much like a cult following, but it's still not a mainstream product. It will never be a mainstream product, but it's what we do. So I think to answer your question, I think the trick is, and I said it when I did an interview with New Live, and I said I respect Glaxon because Glaxon stayed true to Glaxon. They're not trying to be Apollon. They're not trying to be Salucor. They stayed Glaxon, and I like that. I like that like a pro stayed like a pro, and I like that Morphogen stayed like Morphogen, and I like the fact that Apollon stayed like Apollon, and I think that that's the key. In terms of, you're right, when it comes to gender and women, men, it's a very, very sensitive subject for everybody, but it's stupid because the reality is, we have a police officer right now sitting with us who can actually bake, and she's a beautiful female, and she does understand taste way, way better than you and I will ever understand. She will try a flavor and she will know. Is it partially because, and again, I might be hated for what I'm about to say, is it partially because she's a female? Maybe. It's very possible.
It's okay. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. You know what? Okay. You know what? She's a female and she can bake and, and she understands food way better than we do. But now, in retrospect, considering that she is in a relationship with you, who is in the supplement industry, it does help you. It does help you a lot because you're getting a fresh perspective, and she's way better than you are. In that aspect, she's way better. If you're going to be judging, if I'm going to give you right now 10 different protein containers, right? You're going to be pretty much like me. I like it. I don't like it. I like it. I don't like it.
That's the extent of it.
That's pretty much it. There's not going to be any constructive, useful, detailed criticism on a flavor. You're not going to be able to, oh, you know what? This one needs a little bit more salt, and this one needs a little bit more of this flavor, because you're clueless, just like I am. So she brings something that can actually, the industry can benefit from it. And I think that that's the key, when brands, trying to release good tasting protein and everybody's like, oh, the best fucking tasting vanilla on the market. Says who? You fucking, the only thing you understand is a cheeseburger and a bacon cheeseburger. That's the only difference you know. You don't know shit about fucking flavors. You can say this tastes good, but it tastes good according to you. When it comes to mass producing and public and your customers who are some of them are women, and some just, have better taste palate than you do. You have to be able to explain the flavor. And I noticed that they can't. They simply can't. We were working on a mango flavor for a while right now. And like Kay said, mango, I've been to Thailand. I know what, real mango tastes like. And that brand is called Alfonso Mango. And we were getting mango that is Mexican mango, which is not bad. It's good, but it's nowhere near where it's supposed to be. The real good tasting mango is this little ugly yellow thing, looks wrinkled like a fucking 80-year-old man, but that's the one that tastes the best. But majority of people have no clue because they can't even compare. So who's going to be able to tell them? I wouldn't be able to tell them if I wasn't in Thailand. But somebody who is actually trying different, like Robert just now asked about different types of butter, salted, unsalted, light, not light. I don't have a fucking clue. So that's where somebody knowledgeable comes in and can help tremendously, with flavoring. That's going to be literally, as much as I hate the term game changing, but that would be a game changing thing because somebody would be able to help. And yes, protein, aminos, that's very important when it comes to taste. Very important because people, today we have the ability to release something to the market that is really, really, that can taste very good.
Well, especially too, like I think because the world is so open now, because it used to be like you said, you originally start making products for your Apollon gym members, but now you're reaching people that you never would have reached before, right? They're all shapes and sizes and walks of life. So why would you only keep your internal sort of marketing department or your internal R&D department? Why would you keep it just the same old, us guys that just go to the gym and talk to your gym buddies about this? Because now you're appealing to like so many other areas, which like what you're describing, if someone sends us a flavor, I can say, hey, maybe tweak this ingredient or whatever. But when it comes to the flavor, I'm like, well, it's good. It's not good. Whereas she can go, you should try adding this to it. The same way I would say, try adding this to a formula to maybe improve performance. She'd say, try adding this ingredient or this or whatever to improve this flavor profile and stuff like that. So it's a complementary thing. And why I always say we tell companies this all the time when we consult. I say this all the time. I was like, don't do things that you suck at. Like, let somebody else that's good at it do it for you. Like, stay in your own lane and just focus on what you're good at, and you'll be much better off.
Well, that's the thing, just came to mind. And when we were releasing Ruby chocolate, right? So we found out about this flavor from Europe that it's like kind of like berries and white chocolate. And I remember we went to, I think, Whole Foods, right? Yeah, Whole Foods was selling actually Ruby chocolate, the chocolate bars. We tried them and they taste good, but now brought it to the manufacturer. Okay, we want a flavor that tastes like this. They sent us one, I think, version. It was okay. They sent us a second version. It was okay. Third time, I actually had to go there. I don't remember why, but Maria went with me, and she can also cook. She can bake. She's pretty good. She went with me. We were sitting there, and they let us try another Ruby chocolate flavor. And I'm like, this is fine. But again, it's me. She tries it, and she goes, you know what? You should add a little bit of raspberry to this. They go back to the lab. They coming back. Boom. Done.
Good to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. That was that simple. It was right on the spot. I didn't even come.
Whereas you wouldn't have been able to do that.
I mean, strawberry, raspberry, to me, it's pretty much the same shit. But
you just that was devastating for her to hear.
Yeah,
I'm the same way.
Yeah, because it was, I would say berry or something like that, but it was specifically add a little bit of raspberry. Comes back, boom, tastes exactly like that chocolate bar. Approved, we done. Simple.
But the same thing with the blueberries. So in Eastern Europe, we have blueberries, those called like wild blueberries. You can only find them in the forest. When I moved to America, I go to the supermarket, I get those blueberries. They taste like nothing. And I'm like, it's just water. It's like water. I don't understand. Yeah. And then I tried like all different types and brands, and they all the same. And they're like, oh, those are organic and those are from that farm. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's not blueberry. So whatever
Yeah.
you're selling and putting on that pack, it's not it. But people never tried it, so they have no idea. And then like blueberry flavor things also. Like now I understand when they say blueberry, that's that blueberry. Because it tastes like pretty much nothing. But the blueberry that we grew up with, it's not that.
Yeah, you go. I remember we were in Paris maybe 10 years ago or something like that. And we were walking down the street, and in Paris they have a lot of, in Europe in general, they have like these little markets right on the street. People are selling like different like homegrown produce and stuff. And we are walking on the street, and all of a sudden I'm hit with this smell of fresh strawberries. Like, it's overwhelming. It's like, holy shit. And it's not like near me, and I would say it's like maybe a couple of feet away from me. I approached it just to see like, what the fuck is it? Now the strawberries look like shit. They look like tiny, ugly things that probably would not even make it to the supermarket here. We bought it. I couldn't stop eating. They were absolutely delicious. You go to a supermarket here, and the strawberries look like they're on steroids. They're like the size of my kid, but they taste horrible. So I think
they have to look right. Yeah,
they have. They for them, it's very important that they look right. Everything has to be big and impressive and look good. Taste is mediocre. So I think that, even when I don't know if you've tried. You probably tried like proteins and stuff like that from Europe. Typically, they taste better. Especially
That's
products
different.
from Poland, from Eastern Europe. The quality is not as good. I have to admit, the quality that we have in the United States is way better.
The manufacturing quality itself, you're saying?
The manufacturing quality is
Yeah.
way, way better for sure.
There was one. There was one
No,
that. Have you ever heard of? You probably heard of Strom. They're a big UK brand. Well, not like real big, just incredible people. If you don't know them, Rick over there, I love that guy. But they made it was like a rhubarb protein flavor, and I don't even know like what a rhubarb tastes like, but people that even tried it over here that don't know what a rhubarb is, are like, I don't know what it is, but this is incredible, like whatever it is. So it's a kind of a new experience for us.
Yeah, I remember I was in Moscow a couple of years ago, and typically when you go to a protein shake bar like over here, like a juice bar at the gym, it's vanilla, chocolate, peanut butter. Over there, it's a little bit more exotic in terms of like they have different fruits and stuff like that. And I saw peach protein. It was like, I'll try that. I tried it, and it was absolutely amazing. We're talking amazing. I was like, can I see the container?
Sounds good.
It was very good. It was absolutely creamy, delicious, perfect. Especially it was summer, so it was hot, so cold protein shake was amazing. But I was like, can I see the container? And I saw the container. The story was quite different. It was just a bunch of shit.
It was like muscle milk.
It was just like muscle milk beats
they
muscle
had peach
milk.
also.
Yeah, that was just terrible, But the flavors, I think that they just, they paying a little bit more attention to it. I think that, we could definitely improve when it comes to flavors here. There are a couple of very, very good companies that make like really tasty stuff, but it could improve a lot. But I think that, it could help having a little bit more experts, like real experts, like Kirsten, for example, who would lend her expert advice and say like, okay, guys, maybe you can. I think that the industry itself could benefit from it quite a lot in terms of at least improving flavors, because I think that that's where we still lacking a bit, because it's almost guaranteed. I actually have a question for you. I was thinking about it. I remember you tried the cookies and cream that I sent you, right? And it's quite a popular flavor. It's very, very popular. But we on the fence with something that you pointed out, and I thought it was spot on. I always like constructive criticism, and I think I know you like the flavor, but you mentioned something, the chunks of cookies. So some people absolutely love the fact that it's loaded with the whole pieces of cookies. On the other hand, others that just drink their protein shakes, not so much, because you can't really chug it, you can't drink it, it will get stuck in your throat. I mean, yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's true. I think if you add it to something like cream of rice or maybe oatmeal or something like that, it's perfection. I think it's just perfect. But if you drink it, it's a whole other story. So we are about to get like working on a second batch right now. I actually met with a manufacturer this morning. What would you make suggestion to improve it? Leave it as is in terms of chunks, or make it a little bit more refined, or or anything? Because we can still make it, I'm not going to say better. I think it's pretty good, and it's popular, but maybe make some changes that, in your opinion, would improve, I don't know, the experience or maybe the convenience.
Okay. I know what I think, but
No,
So-
it's tricky, because you can go either way, and you're probably not going to be wrong. But considering that you are in the supplement industry, and I do value your expert opinion, I would like your constructive criticism. Which direction we should go with?
So I feel like it's an isolate, right? So that's mainly people are just chugging these after a workout. So I feel like if it were the 50-50, which is more satiating, and you could, because like we said, when you eat the chunks, it's like a meal.
Yeah.
So I feel like pairing the bigger inclusions with something that's more like hefty on your stomach, like the 50-50 with the casein and everything, more meal-ish, like more meal-like, that could be something super satisfying, because the act of chewing alone makes it more satisfying than just chugging it. So if you're just trying to get some quick protein in, I would go with the smaller, even more pea-sized inclusions, just for the experience, for the added flavor, and then just to chug back as an isolate. However, if it were in the 50-50 formula, I would keep the larger inclusions, because it adds to that experience. It's more satisfying to the brain and to the stomach to just get that overall long-lasting, more satiating, filling type of protein in.
yeah, that's a good, because what I was thinking was, what I love about the protein, and that what you guys do, and I think is one of the really key things in the supplement space. It sounds simple, but I see, not even just in the supplement space, but we kind of do this in life in general, or businesses. We can't figure out which way we want to go, so we end up kind of going down the middle, and you ultimately become generic. You become like everyone else's. So what I love about what you did is, you're like, we're going to put cookies in there, we're going to put whole ass cookies in this thing. So you're picking a lane, and you're going full bore into that lane. But I think, like what Kristen was just saying, makes a lot of sense, where if someone's buying an isolate, maybe they don't want the chunks in there. But so like, if you're gonna go the chunks, I love the chunks, man. Like, don't go in the middle like what everyone else does, because I think everyone else is kind of thinking the same thing. They're like, well, let's make them for this people and for these people, and ultimately you end up with kind of a generic product. Whereas, like, who out there, I've never heard, like, cookies and cream. Everyone makes a cookies and cream protein, but
Right.
I've heard more specific comments about yours than anyone else's, because they go, man, there's like whole cookies in here.
Right.
So you have something unique to a very ununique flavor and space. So then, like, maybe what Kristen was saying, isolate people are in general like thinner things as it is. So maybe the cookie chunks would make more sense than the more indulgent kind of protein.
Yeah, but also I just will make a comment, because it's in my head, that the Apollon cookies and cream is more fun. So the fact that the inclusions are so big make it really fun, because instead of it being just like a quick protein shake, it doesn't drink like a protein shake at all. It drinks like a glass of milk that you've been dunking Oreos in, and they've all fallen apart. And that is the super fun part about it, because it's just like getting to the bottom of that glass of milk, and all your little cookie bits that fell off are in the bottom, and it's just fun. It's just fun to drink.
Yeah,
I don't want to drink it fast. It's fun though.
It's like anything else you guys do, like with a pre-workout. If you're gonna go 450 caffeine, go fucking 750. You know what I mean? Just don't be in the middle where everyone else is. So yeah, I like that.
How do you feel, like right now? I mean, we covered it before, but I'm actually very interested in your opinion, in terms of collaborations? And I don't mean collaborations companies. I mean collaborations with I like the Oreo cookie but everybody, for example, does that right now. In the beginning, we saw. I mean, I think the first ones Shane posted a while ago that Muscle Tech was apparently the first one, but that was years ago. But again, everybody forgot about it, and I guess you have to give credit where credit due. I think Ghost was the one who kind of brought the whole collaboration, and then everybody, like you said, is doing what everybody is doing. They copying each other. Do you think that at this point it's a little bit too much? Because in my opinion, and I said it, I have nothing against collaborations. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. I think it's unique. I think the unique aspect is gone now. I don't think it's unique anymore. I don't think it's something new. I don't think it's something innovative. I think right now, and I hate this, but I mean, I have to say it, it's being a copycat right now. Everybody's copying somebody who is successful in a certain field. So again, if they want to do it, that's fine. I'm not against it. But do you think that at this point it's a little bit too much, or do you think that the market got a little bit saturated and even boring in a way with these collaborations? Or maybe if somebody comes out and collaborates, I don't know, with Nutella or something like that, or one of those that are really fun products, do you still think that it has place in it? Because to me personally, it kind of has like I'm kind of like 50-50, no pun intended, when it comes to it. On one hand, I think supplements should stay supplements and more like health oriented. On the other hand, I do understand that innovation is kind of the key, and we have to always raise the bar a little bit and kind of like do things that haven't been done. How do you feel about collaborations and where we stand right now with them in terms of the industry?
So I actually love the idea of collaborations, but for a particular reason. So, like for instance, I've got the Ghost Energy Blue Sour Patch Kid, right? So it tastes like the Blue Sour Patch. The flavor is great. Having an official collaboration with another brand basically gives the consumer confidence and security, knowing that when they drink it, it's going to be good. It's going to be an authentic flavor and it's going to taste good. Now, I feel like companies who do collaborate, if they don't normally have super great tasting products in the first place, collaborations are really good because it kind of guarantees a more authentic flavor and a better flavor than what people would normally get. Now, if like Apollon always had really great flavors, doesn't need it, like necessarily need it. You don't, like, you already have your loyal customers and the brand's just known for specific things. Like the flavors for the protein are really awesome. So not necessarily something that would be like super great, but like for example, everybody out there has like a chocolate peanut butter, right? And I know, at least for me, I get a little bit, when I drink peanut butter cup protein and it doesn't taste exactly like a Reese's, right? I feel like everyone's trying to strive for that nostalgia flavor, and nobody that I'm aware of has collaborated with.
There is one person.
There is one with Reese's. Well,
anyway. Yeah.
Regardless.
But no, you're
so, I mean, I don't know. I really like them. I think they're fun. It gets people in the door who aren't normally in the supplement space to begin with, or maybe not in the health, like just grabbing like teenagers these days. We see them at the gym all the time. And so they're just starting out on their health journey. They're learning about it, getting into it. And these really fun branded collabs just get their attention. And you know what? If something gets somebody in the door and gets them started down this path to being healthier, then I'm all for it. And for the right crowd, I think this is a great idea. It gets all of these younger kids in here, gets them into the protein, into all the other supplements, and can open their eyes to this whole health journey, because so many people think that, oh, we as a society are getting sicker and more lazy. Well, if we can keep these teens in the gym being active and a healthier lifestyle, then maybe the generations that follow afterwards, they'll teach their children, and we can maybe bring the all of our health stats back up after we've had this kind of slump, like obesity epidemic, yada yada, whatever. So I'm all for it. I love flavors, so collabs for me just go over super well.
Well, I think that was one thing. Well, was one thing we talked about before, Rob, about one thing we've struggled with in our space is things quality wise and trust. Yeah, there's still examples, but I think we've seen big improvements just, in the last, say, 10 years and stuff like that. But we still struggle to get legitimacy for the supplement space because there's still people that believe these myths, and like I said, we do have our issues, but when people, because I get comments a lot where people, I mentioned this, I think before when we had this conversation, I've known people, women, a lot of women too, that are coming in the space, they see a Ghost energy drink and have the exact same scenario that Kristen just played out. And then all of a sudden they go, well, let me learn more about this Ghost company. And then they're like, oh, they make a greens product. They make
introduces them to other things too.
Right. So, and then if anything we can do in our space to bring in new customers, right, is good for everyone. But I think 100% to your point, the collaboration thing, Glaxon was a good example because I remember in this conversation with Michael he said, with collaborations, he goes, if we do one, and I think you're kind of the same thought process, Rob, where it's like, it has to make sense. I don't want to just do, because that's all, licensing has become the whole thing. There's these, meetings that, you have companies hit you up now. They're like, license this, license that. It's become all the rage. So does it actually, the collaboration make sense? Ghost has the Sour Patch Kids, and even though it's not supplement related or anything, that's their vibe, as it is. So I remember Glaxon, when they came out with the Pink Lady, the official Pink Lady Greens collaboration, I remember Michael saying, if I can find a product that, because Super Greens, I think, is their most popular product too. It just is their like top selling SKU by a mile. And he's like, if I can find something that makes sense in there, that's fun, it's a little bit different, but still makes sense for what we're trying to do, he goes, then I'll do it. And I think that's probably where you're at too, because we see collabs that they're just literally licensing to license, where it has nothing to do really. I think we talked before about the Moose Tracks pudding from Core, that I was like, that was awesome, because that product is like supposed to be an ice cream take anyway. It's supposed to be like a healthier ice cream take. So you and I think both, we agreed, we're like, that one's really cool. And then sometimes see ones.
It was different.
Yeah, we see ones where we're like,
But let me ask you this, and we'll try to stay nice. So, but it's going to be totally up to you. If you want to name the brand or not, or the company. Have you ever seen a collaboration that you were very excited about, because you like the actual product, but when you tried the supplement, you were like, oh shit, this is a huge mess. It tastes like shit, or didn't really nail it?
If there was any that really didn't, I'm trying to think. Was there anything that really didn't land?
I think so, but I can't quite.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because I think we tried to collab. There was definitely one that was not good, but I feel like I haven't tried them lately, but I've heard they've been getting better. So right when Rise dropped the Ring Pop and the Smarties energy drinks.
Oh yeah.
I Rise is obviously, they're blowing up, right? Great company. I bought a couple cases of those energy drinks, the Smarties and the Ring Pop. They're still kind of sitting there. Mm-hmm. They're just not. They're not that great. But I've heard. Is that
because you didn't like them really, or because you don't think they nailed the flavor?
The flavor didn't taste right. When you think Ring Pop and Smarties, that's the other thing, is when you go after certain collaborations, these are institutions from people's childhoods that you're trying to replicate. It's not an easy thing to do. I got I just did a review yesterday of the Ghost. They did the chocolate Nutter Butter they sent me the other day. And, you saw a lot of really sort of mixed feedback about the Oreo one, because it's one thing to make cookies and cream, right? It's another thing to make Oreo. because Oreo, as soon as you say the word Oreo or Smarties or Ring Pop, everyone has a memory that they attach to it. So all of a sudden you're looking at something that's like a lot more hard to pull off, so that's why I think there was a lot of mixed things about Ghost.
Yeah, when it comes to Oreo, it's actually funny because, I mean, obviously I have a teenager and Oreo is her life. I mean, she loves
Right.
Oreo. And I remember Dan actually and I talked, and then I got Oreo. I remember I got the protein, and he asked me. He goes to me, "Be honest with me. Tell me, what do you think?" Because it had like mixed reviews. I said, "I'll be honest with you. I'm not really an Oreo type of a guy." I said, "I didn't think that you nailed the flavor." I said, "I'll be very, very honest with you. From my perspective," I said, "but I'm not the best judge." I said, "I gave it to Jazz, and she basically said no." She said, "This is not Oreo. This does not taste like Oreo." I said, "But that's okay." I said, "On the other hand, when it comes to all the collaborations that I've tried, and I haven't tried that many, but I've tried a few, my all-time favorite, without a doubt, is Ghost, not a butter.
Me too.
And I haven't tried it.
I just love that flavor.
They nailed that one.
Dan goes to me, "I'll send you a few." I'm like, "No," I said, "I actually go to Vitamin Shop here and there, and I do buy it. I think that it's absolutely phenomenal." And the funny thing is that I mean, I wasn't born here, so not a butter is not something I grew up with. I never tried it in my life. I tried the protein first, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, you know what? I got to try it. And when I tried it, I was like, holy shit, it's identical. It's so fucking good. It's perfect. So I was like, listen, Dan, I said, when we really, like, our dark chocolate is very popular. As a protein, dark chocolate that we make is very popular. I'm not really a huge chocolate person. So the first 2 years that we had it, I never tried it. Never. I never tried it because it's not my thing. I tried it now and I like it. But for me, it's peanut butter cookie. Peanut butter cookie is my favorite. That's the one I go to all the time. That's my favorite. So I said, at the end of the day, I said, don't be upset that some people don't like it. Oreo is a very, very sensitive subject. It's something that people grew up with. So this is a type of flavor that even if you're off by 5%, they're gonna nail you with that. Unfortunately, that's just the case. So he was okay with it, but I told him, I said, like, listen, you're not a butter. I mean, that's a fucking 10 out of 10.
Well, it's tough too when you take the Smarties or Ring Pop or even like Sour Patch Kids, like, that's, I think, another reason why the Sour Patch Kids goes up another notch, because when you try to tackle something, but then you try to tackle candy that's full of sugar and things like that, and now we're going to remove all of the ingredients that made it taste great in the first place, what are you ultimately left with? You're left with, I don't know. So
you're left with Christine, so she can make it happen. And that's the problem in the industry.
Well, yeah, and exactly like what you're saying too. Like, literally, I'm telling you, like, is one of like my joys in this world is when we see something, it is like it's instantaneous. I like watch her, and she goes, and I can see like the processing, and she goes, I know what to do with that. And then she leaves and then goes out in the kitchen, and she's already like doing it. And I'm like, so, which is great for me because I can just, because people, we don't see them for a while, whatever. It's been like a couple of years, and I'll see them and they're like, Justin, you're like 20 pounds bigger than you were the last time I saw you. I'm like, I know. They're like, are you on TRT? I'm like, no, I'm on
good 20 pounds.
I'm on KRT.
Oh my God.
Now, Kirsten, do you make all your like you use different proteins for your baking? Is it always the same product? Like, for example, you make all the proteins, like you make cookies out of them, or you go to different ones like brownies, cookies, I don't know, pancakes, or do you have a protein for every dish or whatever, like something that makes more sense?
Yes, the latter. So when a new protein with flavor comes out, I have to first see what the protein breakdown is. So if it's an isolate, I know that will not lend well to baked goods very much. Isolate, when you bake it, ends up being rubbery, dry, spongy. So it's just not very good in larger amounts. So I typically will save isolates for puddings, cheesecakes, ice creams, stuff like that, because it just works a lot better. 50-50 or any other blends like that work so much better in baking because they don't dry out nearly as much. So you get a more fluffy end product when you use like the blends. So I will figure out what I can make with whatever the flavor is. So I grew up growing up, again, we're going back to the childhood here. We weren't really, I don't want to say allowed, but we weren't really watching like Nickelodeon and stuff like that. I was allowed a few channels, and it was like Court TV, Animal Planet, Discovery Channel, and Food Network. So I would be on Food Network all the time. So growing up, I've been exposed to different flavor combinations, different dishes, different recipes. So if I see a flavor, I can just go back into my little Rolodex here of all the recipes that I've seen in the past and maybe pick out something. So when Ruby Chocolate first came out, I was like, oh, okay, what about like a pink chocolate molten lava cake? It's 50-50.
Hold on. Sorry, but she did that in like 0.5 seconds. Like, she's really, really underselling. Like, she saw the Ruby Chocolate and she was like, and literally said, I don't even know what she just said, actually. And she said it, and I'm like, okay, but she already had the thing. Like, sorry, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
It was much more impressive than she
Unfortunately, when I went to go make it, it was gone. So we just have to get
I did
to try it out. That was his fault.
Yeah, that I couldn't stop. I was like, look, you got to hurry up and make this recipe. I was like, because I'm going to use it all.
I'll send it to you.
Right, because it's like you have like regular like chocolate molten lava cakes, and they're traditionally really high fat and high sugar. So I kind of was breaking it down. I'm like, well, what would be more unique for, like, you could do, chocolate brownies, whatever, but what would be fun for Valentine's Day than to have like a ruby chocolate, like a pink chocolate lava cake that just oozes out. I'm like, that sounds fun. So it's unique, it's interesting, but at the base, it's a chocolate-ish flavor, and you just
this is my life
apply
now,
it to a
so
chocolate
It's not a
recipe.
bad life. I mean, it's not a bad life at all.
Not
But
a bad life.
the reason there was a reason why I asked that question, because I make maybe like 3 or 4 things. That's it, and they vary.
Eggs.
I mean, eggs,
Eggs.
obviously.
Eggs.
Oatmeal pancake. Come on.
Oatmeal pancake. I
He's
make
got his signature dish.
Yeah, that's my signature dish. Oatmeal pancake, I'm good at. And I make also a pancake that is all protein pancake, and that's basically eggs, cottage cheese or ricotta cheese, protein powder of choice, and either natural peanut butter or something like that. Just blend everything together, and I make it into pancakes. So it's fairly simple. And I noticed that certain flavors are good, and certain flavors just don't work for some reason. That's very, very interesting. So, like, for example, the blackberry cheesecake, perfect. Peanut butter cookie, perfect. That works. But Carolina recently came to the house, and she brought protein balls. She makes some protein balls with our caramel macchiato protein, and I thought it was absolutely delicious. They were just perfection. They were so tasty, so good, no carbs. I mean, guiltless pleasure, like really, really good. And then tried different ones. We tried different ones with like different types of protein. So surprisingly, the blackberry cheesecake I did not like. I didn't think that it worked with the protein balls at all. So it was very interesting to me that one dish can be absolutely delicious with certain protein powder, and then identical that you make it exactly the same, and it's a protein powder that you actually like, but it just doesn't work. So I found it very, very interesting that it works with different dishes. So like I was like, caramel macchiato works, chocolate works, peanut butter cookie works, white chocolate not so much, blackberry cheesecake definitely not. So that was
White chocolate will work for the bites. You add some macadamia nut to it, mix it in, and then get that crunch going. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So when we try it and it doesn't work, we just go,
It doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Yeah,
But then,
it
you know, you
doesn't
two
work.
are like, oh, well, just, you know, add this and do
Put
this.
some
And we just,
raspberry into it.
Yeah,
Not that sweet, so you
I like the Alpine vanilla shake. Like I like vanilla in general. I tried to make a pancake out of it. I was like, ew.
you forgot your cinnamon.
It's just ew. It's just not good. Not good at all.
Yeah.
And then like I think that Carolina made a shake for me at the gym, and she goes to me try this. I was like, holy shit, this is good. Like really, really, really good. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And she goes to me, that's peanut butter cookie, 1 scoop of peanut butter cookie and 1 scoop of vanilla. I'm like, really?
And cinnamon.
And
you
cinnamon.
forget the
I'm like,
most important
Oh,
component
yeah.
here. So that brings the flavors together. That's why your
I would
pancake
never in a
doesn't work.
million years mix the two together. Like I don't know. Like it wouldn't even come. It was like, this is good.
Now we have a certain like container specifically for wrap. You put wrap's name into it, and we mix 2 proteins in it. So it's peanut butter cookie and vanilla, so he doesn't have to mix it.
Oh, good. John Lehman's in here, so he heard that. That sounds like it would be a John Lehman move.
John's he's pretty creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. John's
Because
pretty
remember,
creative.
I'm not.
Isolize, they had vanilla peanut butter
Yeah.
flavor.
So Isolize by Species Nutrition, they actually had a protein powder, peanut butter vanilla,
Yeah,
and
that
it was horrible.
horrible. Oh my God.
It smelled bad. It tasted bad. It was just horrible thing.
Well, you know, because not to get off track here, but we're talking about John. John, he always comes up with really good combinations of products. And so I think we were talking about this before, Rob, where, you know, the direction you went with Universal Soldier is one of my favorite products that you make. And it's a little bit like Cerebral that Jeff Long makes, where you have some nootropics that are out there that are really heavy on flavor because a lot of the cool nootropic ingredients don't taste very good, a lot of the herbs and things like that. But you guys went for the performance route. So what John did was he told me, he goes, yeah, I was mixing the Glaxon hydration product, which we know hydration is good for nootropics anyway. He was like, I was mixing the Astrolite from Glaxon with Universal Soldier and Cerebral, and it's like it takes it so you get this amazing performance, but then also because it had like it's got some salt in there, it's got some all kinds of granular. All of a sudden it comes together and you're like, oh man, this is good. So you can get the best of both worlds. So like what you're talking about with sometimes just mixing things together that I never would think of. My brain doesn't go there.
Yeah, well, you still use Assassin that was made like in 19th century.
I was actually we were talking about that just a little bit ago because there was a customer. We're at the nutrition store right now, right? And there was a customer that asked about you know, how long can pre-workouts, or it was like about creatine, like is it expired? And I said, well, well, if you want to talk about expired, I said my Assassin it's just a glob of. So you have to eat it. You can't really like break it apart. You certainly can't mix it up because it's not going to mix up. I said, so you just kind of pull a chunk off and you just kind of chew on it for a little bit.
You just hope for the best. Like, you never know what kind of a ride you're going to have depending on how many ingredients you get in that little.
It's only like 5 years past expiration date.
Yeah, it's nothing. I mean, that's
so when you were talking earlier about how you use the good DMAA, I was like, yeah, it lasts for 10 years apparently.
No, because today I see like, you know, some shady underground companies, like they label DMA, right? And I see 100 milligram DMA. I saw 120 milligram of DMA. I was like, this is probably not. I have a hard time imagining that they're using the real DMA at such a, you know, a high dosage, because let's be honest, even though Assassin at 80 was a little extreme, I mean, even 30 milligram of real DMA, you felt it. I mean, you definitely felt it. That ingredient was, and we had strong real DMA. But right now, when I see 100, 120, and people are saying, oh, this is a good pre-workout, I'm like, it can't be just a good pre-workout with 100, 120 milligram of DMA. It's just not possible. You will be flying. I mean, that's just like you on crack. And I think that that is something that, you know, I mean, do you still get like people sending you stuff like that with DMA? You know, not anymore, right?
No, people don't. They just don't send me anything unless they know it's really good, because I think that people know that. I mean, now granted, if someone sends me something, I'm always appreciative of someone because we know how much work it goes into making a product most times. And so I'll always kind of talk about it. But if so there's like a 2-step process where I'm like, I'll reach out to them personally before I say anything publicly. I'm like, look, here's what I think when I look at this. Like, is there an explanation that you have? Can you tell me your why about why you did this? Is there anything you can anything I'm missing? And they can either choose to explain and like we can have a dialogue, and then I can go, okay, and I can also pass that feedback. I can say what I think, and then I can also say what they think, because I'm not, I don't know everything. I don't know the behind the scenes stuff. Now, if a company doesn't want to do that, I was like, well, then that's on you, because now you're leaving it up to me to interpret however I want. And so I'm going to kind of put it out there. But no, people, they don't send me anything. It's been a really long time.
Because they know that you have assassin, so you can always compare it to.
Right? Well, and like there was something you said, I don't want to like forget this, that it kind of ties into what I see. And Carolina, I'm kind of curious like what you think about this, because we have this conversation a lot. All the misinformation we talk about when it comes to supplements, and we look at the labels and we go, I'm not sure if that's the right ingredient. Is that real? I think that's how I feel looking at food labels. There's all this, these carb alternatives and fiber alternatives and all this stuff. But I feel like that there's a lot of it is not real. It's more like marketing that's going into like functional food and food labels and stuff like that. I don't know. Is that like something, because I'm like clueless when it comes to that. We know in supplements, but when it comes to food, I see a lot of traps that customers would fall into, like when it comes to functional foods.
But see, I think even in supplements, right? And I think the greatest example going to be actually The Rock with his energy drinks. So in terms of marketing, there is nothing can be better than having Rock, right, behind product. But once you try that product, that's absolutely horrible. I mean, there is nothing good you can say about that energy drink, even though knowing that Rock represent that product, right? So a lot of people all over the globe, they see him, like he's probably the most paid, and when it comes to marketing in terms of, I don't even know, like social media, all the platforms, to say like movie star, he can be anywhere, whatever he has in his hands, whatever he wears, people just buy it. But they buy it once. And I think the same exact idea, it comes to like food, the same thing I think comes to skincare, right? Because women actually very much concerned about the skincare. And that's exactly the same thing. You see Jennifer Lopez putting some cream on, and that's why she looks like that. Absolutely not. I mean, if you see Jennifer Lopez who busts her ass on a daily basis at the gym, you have no idea what she eats on a daily basis. And she goes and performs at night, which means she burns tons of calories, no matter what. Like, looks cool. It looks cool for us, but it's so much hard work on top of the daily routine that she's gotten. So that's, I think, the same thing with the food industry. Whatever is out there, whatever is well promoted, whatever is in hands of those who have big audience, whatever have big influence, that's what we see. Unfortunately, people are lazy. They do not read. They do not do research. And that's, I think, the main problem. You guys talked about collaborations also, right? And I think supplement industry was actually the last industry to come up with collaborations, because it's all started like way back before, right? If you look at the, let's say, big clothing brands, let's take Gucci, right? Like Gucci had a collaboration with Adidas. Gucci is here, Adidas is here. But whatever they do, both, they don't kind of like cross paths, right? So Adidas is in sports line. They make sneakers, they make sports clothing, they make outfits, not outfits, what's called, for the soccer players, they make the uniforms. So that's what they do. Gucci, everybody knows, it's super luxury brand. It has history to it. It's quality, right? But then how many people can afford Gucci from mainstream? Not a lot. How many people can afford Adidas? A lot of them, right? Maybe not the latest version of Yeezys, but in terms of just getting a pair of Adidas, pretty much any person can go and get Adidas for $30. But now you have collaboration where Gucci is actually brings the quality and awareness, and they kind of like meet in the middle and make something cool. And now those who couldn't get Gucci, they still get hands on Gucci because it still has a little symbol on it.
Mm-hmm.
And those lovers of Adidas, it's still for them most premium product from Adidas that ever will be, because it's considered luxury Adidas product now. So they both win. And that's what I think also sometimes when it comes to marketing and it comes to quality, it's totally different things, right? So if you think of Apollon's protein, for example, like we sell our protein 50/50 goes for $49.95. And that's before any discounts, whatever that is, you can go on apollonnutrition.com and get it for $49.95. You can find a lot of proteins out there at the same price, but quality gonna be much, much weaker than Apollon's is. But those companies, they don't have much more customers that we are, because they spend their dollar on marketing, right? And I mean a lot more when it comes to finances to market it, and they have bigger audiences. But now, in terms of collaboration, let's say Apollon collaborates with Nutella, right? So everybody knows Nutella, and we can put Nutella on our 50/50. And the price point is the same as those that have weaker quality. How many more people Apollon will gain? A lot. Because the price matches with those with the less quality.
I was just saying, you guys have both mentioned Nutella. I noticed that. I'm not. Is there
Please.
There's something here. We'll talk about that.
That would be cool. No, but I definitely see, like, you know, if we talking again, I guess, about collaborations, I definitely see, like, you know, you can, the two worlds can kind of collide, and you can get the customers from both worlds, and you can definitely benefit. The two brands can benefit from getting, I guess, new customers and new exposure for sure. That's very, very good. And I think that the only issue I have is I think that, you know, we're saying that there are so many supplement companies right now, and it's so competitive right now. And everybody, there's a new pre-workout, I think, like on a daily basis now. So there's like always a new brand. But the same thing, you know, and you and I talked about this, Justin, like, you know, there is an extra anti-green and dynamine and whatnot, but caffeine is still the staple. You know, everybody looks at caffeine, and caffeine is dirt cheap. I think that in terms of innovation, we still haven't reached the peak. We're not even close to the peak. I mean, we're still so far off, because as soon as, for example, if you have a brand and I have a brand, I come up with something, all of a sudden you're copying me. You come up with something, I'm copying you. We're not trying to be innovative where you do your own thing, I try to do my own thing, and we try to come up with new ingredients, new ways of marketing. Like right now, remember at one point, I think that, what is that company? Insane Labs, right? Insane Labs came with that clown, and then they came with skeletons and whatnot. All of a sudden, every brand had clowns and skeletons. Everybody. It was just so boring, and so, you know, and everybody was saying to me, I remember back then, look, the label is amazing. I mean, I'm not going to argue, because majority obviously wins. I guess people did like skeletons and clowns. I didn't, but a lot of people did. So in you know, instead of trying to do something different, you know, everybody kind of jumped on a bandwagon and was like, okay, let's do skeletons. And everybody's there were creepers and then monsters and then I don't know, like
jokers
and jokers, and everybody was going with the same theme, which I never understood, like, why. And I can even see right now, I'm flattered in a way, I am, when I see a formula and I'm like, this is Hooligan, you know,
it looks like mine.
You know, this looks like mine. I'm like, but why are you doing it? Because people are pointing, like, you know how many times I get a DM or a text message like, look, this company is copying Apollon. Look, this company is copying Apollon. And it's always flattering. Don't get me wrong. When I saw recently, somebody sent me a picture of assassin made in India. You know, I mean, it's cool. It's very, very cool. And obviously, I'm not going to go and fucking press charges and lawsuits and whatnot with somebody in India or China. It's flattering. But I'm like, guys, it's just stupid because number one, I see the formulas, some cheap prop blends or something like that. I mean, you're still not on my level. You're not on my level. You just copied the name. If anything, you just pointed out to yourself, look, I suck. I don't have any creativity.
Right.
I lack
I got nothing new.
imagination, and I'm kind of stupid, dumb, and I'm a copycat. So I'm like, it makes no sense. Like we're talking about adults. We're not teenagers. We're not TikTokers. We actually businessmen because we're running businesses. Like people are saying, Justin is. Somebody said to me recently, "Oh, Justin has to review a product or something like that." You're not a review channel. You're not even a review channel, but people do value your expert opinion. So you do review products. You still give your opinion, but you're different. You're not trying to be TJ of Fitness Deal News. You're not trying to be. You're not trying to be Review Brothers. You still do certain things that they do, but you're doing it in your own way. Supplement Snoop is a whole different thing, and I said it about Shane, the same thing. What Shane does as Stacked, nobody does. There is nobody that competes with him, and nobody even tries to do it because it's just a lot of work and it's different. And what you do is different, and that's what I respect. I respect because when we were sending out what was it? It was some kind of a supplement we were sending out. So we sent it to 2 or 3, I think, channels that review products. And I remember I contacted you and I said, I didn't even ask you to review, which I knew that you potentially can, but I was just sending it to you as an expert. But at the same time, I was not sending it to you as a review channel. So you do your own thing. You came up with your own thing. And I think that that's the reason why, in a way, you stand out. And the same thing goes with supplements. You have a brand. And, I remember when Glaxon, using Glaxon as an example, when Glaxon came out, somebody showed me their labels, right? And they're like, what do you think? I was like, it's not my thing. It's not. But I 100% respect what they do. It's cool because they're different and they and even today, they labels, and the way they present themselves, it's still so cool because it's different and they're not trying to be like somebody else. Even the formulas, you can give me probably it's like kind of somebody said recently when they saw our Panda collaboration, right, that we did Face Off, and I was flattered. Like honestly, I it almost brought tears to my eyes. I don't remember who it was, but somebody said like, "Oh, this is Rob's formula." I was like, wow, I have my signature moves, that people recognize me. So the same thing, if you're going to give me a Glaxon formula without seeing that it's Glaxon, I'm going to say, this is Joey. That's Glaxon. This is them. They're not trying to be like anyone else. You can like it, you can hate it, but they have their own identity. And I think that that's the reason why the supplement industry, as much as everybody says, oh my God, it's so crowded, it's so fucking stacked, it's so competitive. I don't see it that way. I honestly did not see it that way.
Yeah. There's a couple things that you said in there. First of all, thank you for the compliments because I think that
I'm just being honest, it's true.
Well, it's like one of the things like you adhere to, and like Dan from Ghost, I know he quotes the authenticity is undefeated kind of thing, which always made a lot of sense. But I was actually on a podcast the other day and I was talking about this, how years back, I feel like, so I said a lot of the formulas and products, and I said, and this is not necessarily a negative thing. I said a lot of formulas and products these days look the same. I said, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I said, what we've determined now that we have all this access to information and we can communicate with each other and we can talk about this stuff with education, we've sort of gotten rid of a lot of ingredients that back in the day we realized they were junk, right? They didn't actually do anything. So what we've kind of done is trimmed a lot of fat out of the industry in the ingredient space. And we've sort of honed in on like this group of stuff that we're like, okay, this is good. The creatines, the citrulline and things like that, the nitrates, we know that this, but now we've sort of brought it down to like a small group of ingredients. So now that's what everyone's using. So that's why formulas all start to look the same, because we sort of determined as a consumer and as an educator and you know, in the science aspect, that this stuff is good right here. So this is what everyone's using. And like one of the things that we try to do too is to make sure consumers are still open to new things. And that's one of the things when it comes to a brand like yourself or a brand like Glaxon, like we're talking about Glaxon, people know if Glaxon comes out with a funky ingredient attached to it that no one's ever heard of, people, because Glaxon has earned trust of their customers, people are like, you know what, I'll give this new ingredient, this innovation a chance. Where, because what I've seen a lot of, and I've been guilty of this too, where someone will come up with some innovation, because you mentioned innovation earlier, and I'll see it and I'll go, nah. And like Robert, I mean, same thing, like we go through this all the time, and I try to make sure like we're still open to it, but it has to be coming from the right people for me to go, okay, maybe I'll listen to it. So anyway, it's just an observation I made about how there was so much more stuff that you would see all the time. Now it's kind of narrowed. And then hopefully now that we sort of have this agreed upon standard for the industry in a lot of ways, now we can start to branch out a little bit more and show a little bit more innovation and show a little bit more personality, like on a lot of things, and not just in a branding way. So I don't know if that's like something you noticed or experienced. It's just something I kind of have seen, I think.
No, it's true. It's definitely true. And then, like you said, there are brands that, you know, that earn that trust. They actually did earn that trust. And, you know, the one thing that I always liked, you know, is everybody to have their own identity. It's very, very important to kind of stick to your guns, to stick to what you're good at. And, you know, sometimes you'll see, you know, I use him a lot, especially lately as an example, Conor McGregor, right? He came on the scene. How many people he brought to MMA? A lot.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because he would do things that nobody would ever dare to do. He would say things that nobody would ever dare to say. Today, everybody says what he says.
True.
Everybody does what he does.
Yeah.
Everybody acts the way he acts, and nobody's as successful as he is. Conor McGregor can lose a fight. He can win a fight. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He can fucking punch somebody in the face on the street. There can be a lawsuit against him. It doesn't matter what he does. He draws attention because he's so unique, and he's the first one to do something that nobody has ever done. And I think that, you know, you have a couple of brands today, you know, NutriBio. They do things maybe a little bit old-fashioned way, but on the other hand, they are kind of sort of
that's their thing.
That's their thing, and they, you know, the whole not proprietary blends and stuff like that. They were among the first ones to do it, and they do it very well. Somebody said to me recently, NutriBio is a boring brand. I can see that. I can see that accusation or calling them boring. I can see that 100%. But nevertheless, they have the customer base. They have loyal followers that are sticking with them. Why? Because if you want to call them boring, call them boring. If you want to say that they labels, you know, not really modern style or something like that, that's fine too. But look at Optimal Nutrition. Optimal Nutrition's been doing the same shit for God knows how many years, and they still laughing all the way to the bank because they absolutely killing it. They don't give a fuck about brand of the year. They don't give a fuck about you know, the latest innovation. They don't give a fuck about anything. They selling millions and billions, and they're doing just phenomenal. But they stuck to the identity. They, you know, you can see Optimal Nutrition and you recognize them immediately. 100% whey protein. Everybody knows that product.
Boston.
Yeah, everybody knows that product, and you know, it's readily available all over the world. People know them. Glaxon. Everybody within the supplement industry knows who Glaxon are. Are they the biggest brand? They not, but they decent size, and they've been on the market only a few years. But everybody knows them. What Ghost achieved is remarkable. What Jim Stopani achieved is absolutely remarkable. You know, those are the brands that kind of sticking to their identity. I think it's very, very great. Yeah, we don't have a lot of tools. There hasn't been a lot of innovation when it comes to newer ingredients that are actually, you know, revolutionary and game-changing and raising the bar. We're still using citrulline, and sometimes people go like, why is there citrulline? Because it fucking works. Plain and simple, citrulline works. Why are we still, despite tinkering, despite an extra, despite all those, why are we still using caffeine? Because it will hit you, because it's cheap and it's effective and it works. Nitrate's been around for a while now. Everybody knows nitrates definitely work. Creatine, we don't even need to get into that discussion. But we had a couple of ingredients like S7. They came on the market guns blazing, and nothing really happened for obvious
Yeah.
reasons. So yeah, I mean, there's sometimes not much you can do. Somebody asked me, I think Sean asked me on his podcast, he goes to me, is it challenging creating a formula? Not really. I mean, it's not really challenging because the tools are there. And if in most cases, if you think about it, why if we're talking about pre-workouts, why there are ineffective pre-workouts? Because you can look at the label and you can see that majority of companies still try to cut corners. They still try to save. They're still trying to save money, which I understand because, it's expensive. But, we all have the same tools, and especially if you've got a prop blend, I mean, you pretty much have a transcript, so you know exactly what's used in a formula. But I think that I would like to see the supplement industry getting better by, investing more into research and innovation. I know it's a lot of money. I know it's very, very hard to do. And using maybe a female perspective, somebody like Kristen, when it comes to flavors, just to get a little bit better, just a little bit better, rather than a fat fuck who owns a brand sitting in his office and trying a protein shake that he just blended with whole milk, and maybe added some sugar to it or God knows what else, or lots of Skippy peanut butter, and all of a sudden it tastes good, and he goes like, okay, this is approved. But that's not how it works. We have enough resources and enough ingredients and enough flavoring and enough technology to make out of, good ingredients something that tastes really, really good. If you're going to hire somebody to help you create something good, I mean, there's a reason why restaurants have chefs. There's a reason why they have experts, and there's a reason why people are willing to pay $200 for a steak, because it actually tastes good. So I think that that's something that I would like to see personally, and I think that there is still growth to do. There are no limits. I don't think we reached the limits yet. Another question for Kirsten: besides baking, besides the good food and good quality food and healthy food, let's talk about some fun food that has nothing to do with health. Let's talk about the reason why Justin is a fat fuck with 20 pounds extra. Do you have like a specialty or Justin, I love you. You look great.
Oh, no, it's all good.
Clearly you're juicing and you're not on TRT, like a lot of stuff. But no, seriously, do you have a signature dish that you like really, really good at? That's something that you're very proud of that has nothing to do with health?
Yeah, so you guys actually talked about it in the last podcast, which was the banh mi. I've been making them weekly now, and for not ever having had an authentic one, I think mine are pretty freaking amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah.
And they just happen the way I make them, because I use pork tenderloin instead of a pate. They just happen to actually be pretty macro friendly. I can't, it's unintentional at this point.
Did you see the recipe somewhere, or did you just experiment and come up with it yourself?
I looked at a few different recipes to see what the components were and then what the flavors were. And then I just kind of meshed two ideas, two recipes together to make something that I liked and thought tasted good. So wow. The spaghetti I make my own sauce myself. That one's really good.
Everything,
literally
everything is good. Well, and also she makes because just like you, Rob, if I got 3 things in my arsenal, which is fine, but she makes such a variety of different things. She'll make sure I have a breakfast type meal and then a lunch type meal and then something more dinner, and I mean which is fantastic. You know what I mean? But so there's like all these different layers to it. Just like it almost like what she just said sounded a little bit probably like if you're making a formula or pre-workout, right? You'll go, okay, this is the parameters. We know we need to be in here, but now let me put my personal twist on this product, make it my own rather than, make it, we know where we need to be roughly. But then, put some personality to it. She does that with like literally everything she makes. The banh mi she makes is fucking mind blowing.
And then the other one recently was the Guinness shepherd's pie.
Oh yeah,
which I'm making tomorrow, and it is like it's stupid good. I've never been like a shepherd's pie person because I have this thing about foods being mixed together.
It's so good.
Oh, and then the chicken pot pie was really incredible too.
Everything she makes is incredible. And I don't just say that, like, as I even will tell her because it was a while. Like if she makes something, because she experiments a lot, so she relies on my honest feedback. So if she makes something and it's like not that great, I'll honestly tell her. I'm like, that was a miss.
Like the Vietnamese spring rolls I made. I boiled the shrimp and did the rice noodles, the vermicelli rice noodles.
Bad. She put a lot of effort into it,
and I rolled them all up, and I made
this is not for me.
Sweet chili sauce to go with it.
But seriously, I mean, obviously I was joking, but both of you are in incredible shape, and judging by the food that you're describing, is it more challenging to stay in shape? Like your workouts changed, your programs changed? I'm being that serious right now because I mean, obviously it's good food, and you're clearly enjoying making it, eating it, enjoying it. But the thing is that typically, Justin, what are you, like, you 40 or something?
43.
Is it like, I mean, I know I'm 48, so the older you get, obviously it's more challenging.
Changes.
In shape. Yeah. It changes. Would you say it's considering the food and everything else, and I mean it's more like a passion, but obviously it's a passion that you enjoy. Is it more challenging for you to stay in shape? Because again, both of you are in great shape.
Well, I can speak from my point of view because what I see her do. So this kind of ties into the conversation we had. What I watch her do is she sees something and she goes, because I don't know how much you want to delve into like personal stuff about like your weight loss journey. Like she had lost a lot of weight and things like that. So there was a way you look at something like very indulgent. You know how we see people fail in their weight loss journeys or exercise journeys because they try to do too many hard things all at the same time, usually, and it's not sustainable, right? So talk about balance, where the first thing she does when she sees something super indulgent, she goes, I can do that, but I'll switch two things that ultimately make a big difference, but it doesn't change the dish necessarily. And like just by making a couple of changes right here, she can turn a dish that would be considered a cheat meal, and all of a sudden it's just something that is not only tastes fantastic, but it literally is like dialed into your macros. Because I lost a bunch of weight like years back, and I started to really track macros and things. I haven't tracked a macro in like over 10 years. I have a rough idea of everything.
I'm too lazy for that.
Yeah, because that's why we always eat the same things, right? Because we know if I eat this, I'll look like this and I have to work this hard.
Exactly.
She tracks everything, like everything obsessively. So it's already like compared to me.
Yeah, comparatively.
So everything sort of has a purpose. Like everything she does, it's functional, right? But it is also fun at the same time, that's why I like nudge her. I was like, what you do is pretty special, and like most people won't do it. So that's why I keep like nudging her, like, just quit your job,
right.
quit your job.
Because that's what I try to do with the Supplement Snacks page, with not only just the protein recipes, but the other recipes that I share in general. Because like you said, I didn't start the hardcore fitness working out thing until 2020, which was just a happy accident that it was 2020. But because I had tried and dabbled here and there with working out and maybe like dieting, but it got really bad in 2020. So because in high school, college, I was 135 pounds. Like I was normal average for my height. Never had to struggle with my weight growing up at all. But then after college ended and I got like deeper into college and I started working part-time. So full-time student, part-time working, all I did was work, school, work, school. So my coworkers and I, all we would do was just go out, grab some fast food, and come back in. So what a lot of the general public does right now. And so then of course the weight just starts coming on. And then with the increase in weight and the increase in the not so good quality of the food that I was consuming, leads to, you know, being lethargic and just feeling nasty and not wanting to get out and do anything. So then everything just kind of snowballs into a point where you just wake up one day and you're like, wow, what happened? And so that for me was 2020. I was 183 pounds and in law enforcement, obviously still for quite some time at that point. I'd been in law enforcement for 7 years at that point. And so I was like, this is not good. This is not healthy. It's not good for me. It's not good for the people who I need to protect. It's not good for my partners. So I started on the mission to become stronger and healthier. And actually the year before that, 2019, I was so desperate that I went to a weight loss, a bariatric center actually. And I got put on a bariatric surgery diet where I had to get blood work drawn every month. It was a 3-month thing. I lost 30 pounds in 3 months, but it was pretty terrible and it ruined my relationship with food because at that point it's like, okay, you're drinking 2 shakes a day and you get 1 meal replacement bar and then you get 1 meal which is like a protein and 2 vegetables. And it totally screwed up my brain and it was bad times. So because again, going back to my job, working third shift, the only places that were open to eat if you didn't bring your food were like Denny's and Waffle House. So like that's where we ate at 2 a.m. every single night. And it wasn't good. So the combination of all of that just led to being very unhealthy. So in 2020, I hired a coach and I'm still with her now. And I learned how to do things the right way. I learned about macros. I learned about what food does for you. I enrolled in an online university course for sports nutrition. So I was learning about what carbohydrates do with your body, what fats and proteins, water, rest. And after learning about everything, that's when I was like, you know what? I want to help other people who are in the spot that I'm in now, because now that I feel so much better and feel like a better like human, that I want other people to feel the way that I do right now, because I know how miserable I was before. And I know how terrible it is thinking that, oh, it's never going to happen. It's going to be so much work. And I've tried all of this and nothing ever happened. Just to know that at the end, like there is success. You can get there. You just have to do it the right way and the sustainable way. And I really, really want people to feel that too, because I just feel so incredible.
This is actually impressive and very inspiring.
That's
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, this is like probably my favorite part of the whole. But I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, one of the
this is something I want to ask you now. When you were overweight, and again, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, when you were overweight, because Justin mentioned something about you adjusting certain foods and changing certain ingredients right now to be a little bit friendlier, so to speak, macro friendlier, diet friendlier. Now, is that the same dishes that you used to prepare back then when you were overweight, but without the adjustments?
Yeah, sure. So, like for example, I'll bring up the spaghetti again, because this is what my mother taught me how to make. So instead of regular, and I'm saying like nothing's wrong with regular spaghetti noodles at all. Like no food is bad. It's just food, right? So to increase protein to meet my protein macros, I had to start using like the Berea protein plus pasta, or even whole grain, because spoiler alert, they're only a gram difference of protein between the two. One of them is just marketed as protein, which is $1 more expensive. The other one's just whole grain. Anyway, so I would do that. I would substitute just ground beef for lean ground beef. And then instead of putting sugar in there in the sauce, it was a sugar substitute. So that adjusts, like a few small adjustments can change the entire thing with how it is at the end, with how healthy or how easier, not healthy, how much easier it is to kind of fit in your macros.
So sorry, there's one other part that she does that is super, super important that I see, because as someone that doesn't know a lot about the functional food game and this other stuff, you know, getting that outside perspective. So what I see, what's wrong, why I don't like functional foods, I don't like most of the stuff that's out there. It's such an extreme deviation from actual food. Like everything, you know, everything's gone protein infused, and you know the net carbs and all this other stuff. It's so far that honestly, man, Rob, I don't know if you feel this way, Carolina, I don't know if you've had this experience eating like just regular food my entire life. When I started to eat this stuff that's out there now, it started to give me a lot of issues. Like it's marketed as healthier, but it's not. I mean, I don't need a meta-analysis down the road to tell me that when I eat it, I don't feel good. So you have this shift of people moving into this sector of thinking, okay, this stuff is really good for me. So it's too much of a swing. Whereas what she does, she moves it from the unhealthier part of it into a more, it's still the food itself. Because I think what I see companies do now, they take food and they manipulate it, and not that I'm against GMOs and all this other stuff, but they manipulate it in a way where it's not even like food anymore to this point. So what she does is just moves the needle a little bit away. So then if you're eating like that long term, these benefits are adding up like every single day. So I just wanted to jump in with that, because what she does, it's not that all we see these days right now is people with their, you know, extreme movements of every single fucking food on the market is now, you know, this fake healthy stuff. Whereas that's not what she does with her recipes. She just makes a little bit of changes here and there that keeps the integrity of the food itself, but makes it in a way where you're, you know, kind of good to go.
Yeah. So like now we don't have this restaurant here in South Carolina, but take In-N-Out, for example. I make a copycat animal style cheeseburger and I've had In-N-Out multiple times. What I make is just as good.
It's unbelievable.
And so the only changes that I have to make, of course,
he's a big In-N-Out guy. I've seen his.
I love In-N-Out.
Yeah,
he's got this giant.
That's the only fast food that she
That's the only
likes.
fast food
The only fast food that she likes is In-N-Out.
Yeah.
It's so good. So I'll do like the extra lean ground beef, and you can even still, because I'm sorry, like I get, you know, people not wanting to do processed cheese and stuff, and like get like, oh, here, I'll get like real Sargento instead of that. But if you're gonna make something like that to be more authentic, you have to use like the singles. But I'll use the fat-free singles, right? So they're melty, gooey, whatever. For the sauce, it's low fat, or like it's light mayo. It's like the sugar-free ketchup. And so those little adjustments that you make really add up to a whole lot. So, and I had the breakdown on my page, on my Instagram page, but instead of having like a 900 something calorie burger, it's 400 something. And you have more protein, lower sugar, way lower fat. And so suddenly it's a meal that's kind of like a comfort food for you, or something that seems exotic or fun. It's not chicken and rice, right? But the macros are there to where you can still fit it into your day easily. And that is my goal. And that is what I want to do, to say that, hey, you don't have to be afraid of going on a nutrition plan. You don't have to be afraid of dieting or cutting or anything, because it doesn't have to be boring. You don't have to eat like asparagus and green beans and boiled chicken and rice. And it's not plain and bland and disgusting, because people think about, oh, I got to change my diet to lose weight. That's going to be terrible and miserable. And it doesn't have to be. You can make any food fit. You just have to put it in context with the rest of your day, and everything will work out. And it doesn't have to be a miserable thing. We've been eating like the burgers and turkey burgers, chicken sandwiches, buffalo chicken salads, and all of this food where it doesn't look like, it doesn't look like you're dieting, but like our body composition has changed drastically in the past. Mine more so than his. He's just gotten way more muscle. But like in the past 3 years since I've been doing this,
you have so much muscle on you. It's ridiculous. Like, she's being modest with this outfit she's got on. She's jacked. Like, out of her mind.
So it's like these changes happen. And so when you kind of put the scale into context of, okay, this is the amount of mass that you take up. Like, this is just your weight. It doesn't take into account, like, you can have the same weight for several months and you just look totally different. So, and that's also some of the awareness that I want to put out there, that, hey, it's okay. I have a lot of friends at work and they're all coming to me now to be like, hey, I need help with nutrition. I need help with working out. I need this and that. And what I hear is, man, I'm still the same weight. I'm doing all this and nothing's working. I'm like, okay, but have you been taking pictures? Do you notice your clothes are fitting differently? Because yeah, the scale might be the same, but how do you feel? You know, do you have more muscle now? Are you finding that your workouts are easier? You know, do your clothes fit differently? And it's just, there's so much to it, but all that's out there usually, and they've been doing a lot better recently, but for the longest time, everything that's been out there is, and I saw a commercial the other day, it was for like a freaking juice cleanse, right? Some bullshit, like, get these juices in here. You're going to lose 8 pounds in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, 8 pounds of shit, 8 pounds of water. Like, what are we doing here? Like, why is this kind of thing still around? Why are we preaching and throwing the stuff out there that you can lose all this weight in this short amount of time, when that's not going to be enjoyable? You're going to be miserable. It's going to be terrible. And then by the time you're done, you're going to go right back to where you were, because that's what happened to me when I went through that extreme diet of restricting to 900 calories a day. And all you're going to do is, at the end of it, you're going to go right back to what you were doing, and you're going to act like you didn't make any progress, where what it is, it truly is a lifestyle change. And you just have to think about food differently in relation to what your activity level is and what it does. So it's just, it's an exciting journey to be on, and you can learn a whole lot. You can learn a whole lot, and it doesn't have to be scary. And I just want to take as many people with me, so that you know that it is possible. You don't have to be stuck where you are. You don't have to be miserable. You can get the look that you want, and it doesn't have to be like terrible.
This is why I always tell her, I was like, listen, what I do, I was like, what you do blows away anything I do.
You know what? This was actually astonishing, because the thing is that, you know, again, just like I said about the supplement industry, same shit day in, day out. It's the same shit. And the same thing with dieting. Chicken breast rice, chicken breast rice, chicken breast rice. It doesn't have to be that way. You know, some people are still like, oh, you know what? I cannot have eggs. I can only have egg whites. No, you can have eggs. Nothing's wrong with eggs. It's just stupid. You know, it's just, you know, it's time to kind of like be a little bit more advanced and kind of like step into the, because we have the resources. You can have an actually very balanced, good tasting diet today, a lifestyle, so to speak, where you actually can be fit, you can look fit, you can be lean. You know, fats are not exactly the enemy, you know, and even carbs are not exactly the enemy. You can do it right. You just have to make sure how to properly do it. I know that everybody has to go soon, but I wanted to two things. Number one, we have to make sure that we have part two with the ladies, because this turned into something that I did not expect. And number two, before we sign off, Kristen, do you do any consulting, advices, anything like that people can reach out to you?
I mean, my DMs are open, so if people want help,
email on there too, right?
Yeah, I do have an email at supsnacks@gmail.com. If anyone just wants help or an idea or some place to start, I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, certified to give nutritional advice or or plans or anything like that. But I can.
The experience shows it.
But I can speak from experience. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. We do.
We're
like,
bumps,
we
don't
know what we're.
I can.
Half-assing this.
Nothing beats experience, and nothing beats personal experience. What you've done is remarkable, and even like, you know what, like, to be honest with you. And, when I see people posting online, you know, I mean, so a few times people ask me, like, why do you post so much about, like, food, like fun food and stuff like that? I said, because it's fun. You know, what do you want to see? Like, yeah, but you're in shape. What do you want me to post? Chicken breast?
Right.
Why would I post that?
There's nothing exciting about it.
It's the same thing as when I see somebody's posting a video of bench pressing. What are you showing me? You're not impressing me, because everybody does bench press. You're doing 315 pounds. I know somebody who does 405, and then somebody does 600. You're not impressing me. I'm not interested in it. There is nothing I can learn from you. I don't give a shit about your chicken breast. I don't give a shit about tilapia. I think it's disgusting food anyway. You know, I'm not interested in it. Give me something that tastes phenomenal, but also good for you and can help you with your fitness journey and, you know, and achieve certain goals. Otherwise, you know, I'm not interested. It's a waste of fucking space. You
should do a blind taste test of In-N-Out burgers versus your copycat In-N-Out.
Yeah,
burger.
I mean, that would be fun.
Yeah, and right. So we all need to just go on a trip to
West Coast, yeah. But
well, you know what? When you guys come to Apollon, we're going to arrange something. I already have an idea. It's gonna be
There you
fun.
go.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We're definitely going to do part 2 with the ladies because now we have to. You know, thank you for everybody who tuned in on Saturday afternoon. And, you know, thank you for everything. Thank you for your support. And see you guys soon. Take care.
thank you.